Avan, I really appreciate the chance to talk to you, and I will tell you, in all honesty, I thought Dormouse was fire.
Thanks. I appreciate it. That's so good to hear, man.
Yeah, it like there is. Well, I mean, I'm going to talk about fire here for a minute, but there's like a heat off this film from start to finish,
Thanks.
and it's just an excellent noir.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. It's so weird to have people have seen it like that. You understand? Like it's lived in my brain as this sort of theoretical idea for a long time. It's lived in my brain of being like me trying to explain to people what it is. And so it is that funny thing about a film where like the film is the final word on the film.
Yeah.
Where like you write a script or you like make a lookbook or you make a shot list and you're like trying to like communicate your idea desperately to everyone around you as the director. That's literally your job. Your only job. Everyone's like, oh, you have to know everything or be in charge. Not important. You need to communicate your idea to everyone around you. And then you're like, I don't have to communicate it anymore. Like people have seen the film, they're gonna get that's the final word on it. So it's really cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's got to be a challenge because, like you said, that you're communicating to everybody around you. This is what we want to accomplish, and then you sort of release it,
Yeah.
and it almost becomes not your own anymore at that point. I Was that hard for you?
Um, in a way, what I loved about this process, what I think I learned, and I'm gonna like boil it down to like a couple of single ideas, is when you write a script, it's all potential. You have all the money in the world, and all the shots are perfect. You see them in your mind. You've got the perfect cast. Everyone's great, and it's just beautiful. You're a genius. Good for you. And then you go to shoot it, and you fail the potential of that script every day, and that's okay. That's what you're supposed to be doing because there's no other way. You're now making it a reality. So in the kind of chemical or sort of feels like alchemy, the sort of alchemy process of making it into a real thing, it starts to lose all that potential. And so then you've shot something and then you go, oh wow, like, and part of that is again giving up, the reins. You give up to a production designer, cinematographer, to the actors, to the script supervisor, to people you don't even realize you're giving it up to, costumers, hair and makeup, all these folk. And you want to hope that A, you've done your job right by hiring all the people who understand it. But B, your only job is to course correct. If
Mm.
something doesn't fit the little dream you created in the thing, you just nudge it back onto the tracks and you sort of keep the train going in the direction that the station it left, it tries to arrive at the station that it's going to. So you just got to keep it on those tracks. And so then you have a film and you're like, wow, I have a great film. Or you like, oh shit, I seen up, I did not get everything I needed to get. Oh my God, that's gonna be awful. And then you get to an editing room, and again, you're failing the potential of the film, and that's fine. You're now assembling scenes,
Yeah.
and you're realizing, actually, I did not screw this up. There's a whole solve here that I didn't see. Or you're like, wow, I thought I had this, I don't. So what's the solve now? It is really one of the most um, uh, and the thing sort of addicting about it, it is the most stimulating creative experience
Mm.
that you can have. It's part military, part art, part business. It's an interesting. It's not painting, and I love painting. I paint. I like to paint, but it's a really interesting business.
Yeah, that I think part military, part art, maybe the quote,
Yeah,
the quote of the
yeah.
day. Because oh man, we could talk a long time about with about that. But I hear what you're saying. But I love the film's ode to film noir. Like this is a true modern film noir, and it's so funny because the genre has evolved over the years. There are things that have stuck with it, though, that have lasted for 70
Yeah.
years. Why do you think we have such a love affair with this particular genre?
Well, what attracted me to it is it's a way to communicate One of the big genre tropes of film noir is the little man being squashed by the powerful. The person who is, in spite of all the people or institutions of power that are stopping them from getting the answers that they need, they're going to go after it and get it done. That is relevant throughout time. You know, it's more relevant now than it's been a number of years. So I think like just that as a baseline for noir is always an interesting thing. And then for me, like the reason why I want to, like, again, like you said, like there's all these things that have stuck around. How I wanted to push the genre, not necessarily forward, but just like in a different direction, is it's always about the disenfranchised. I love punk rock. Punk rock is always about the disenfranchised. Yeah. I think the story of people of color and women's bodily autonomy and the police in the ineffectiveness of like sometimes systems of law enforcement and justice, and all these things are so central to right now, and they've always been central to noir. Like noir that's what noir is about. It's always the guy who's on the wrong side of town trying to figure out why the person who doesn't matter is missing. Like that is the genre of noir. Yeah. And so for me, I think why some of these tropes have stuck around as long as they have, why noir has stuck around as long as it has, is because though unfortunately those elements haven't left us in 75 years. They're still around. If not, and maybe they're more powerful than they've ever been.
Well, you know, I love that you said that, because one of the things that keeps coming up in the film is monsters. You know, Mouse continues to refer to the monsters. Monsters are real. They walk among us. And there's this conversation at one point, I think it's Mouse, that says most people are monsters and don't want to be saved.
Oh yeah, it's Mama, but yes.
Her Mama says it. She's talking with Mama.
Mouse, yeah, that's right.
I'm just wondering, from your perspective, what do you think it means to be a monster today? Because, like you said, you know, they haven't gone away.
No. They've changed form a little bit.
Changed form, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting that line spoke to you or clung on to you, because that's something I think that's central to the whole film to me, is the idea, because this is a fairy tale as much a noir as well. Like it has a fairy tale sort of like Brothers Grimm sort of like, you know, like I do like definitely pull inspiration from the feeling of fairy tales. And there's always a dragon at the end of the fairy tale in the Lost Wood. And to me, like how the modern monster has changed, it looks more agreeable. It looks more like it's changed form, and it preys upon the same people, but it has changed form. And I think there's systems of power, people of power who have been abusing their power for a really long time. I think that it's gotten I guess what scares me about the modern monster to me is they know the language. They know how to speak correctly. They know how to say all the things correctly. Like everyone knows, like the bad guy who like says racist shit or sexist shit, and like we all know that guy. That guy exists, and like and those people in power exist. What scares me is the people who know how to speak correctly, but they're not in the interest of the people who are disenfranchised. They're not in the interest of the people who are being who are being taken advantage of. And that's, if you're gonna ask me what a modern monster looks like to me, like I think that's what scares me the most. I think the movie is really about slaying monsters, and it's about the erosion of morality. Because you have these three characters, without giving too much away, you have these three characters, these three women who are in different stages of their lives with different versions of their morality eroding away. And Mouse is saying, I'm not going to get old and jaded. I'm not going to get old and allow my morality to slip away. I'm going to stand for something. I'm going to stand for what I believe in. And Yeah, I that as a young person when I was writing, it's funny, interesting. Like 7 years later, as like a slightly older person, being like seeing Mouse's ideology and idealism, really. Which at 23, I was like, yeah, that's that what it should be, man. Like, it's funny to like look at it and be like, actually see her idealism in a certain way. It's interesting how a project changes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it certainly would have evolved over time. This is what I think is so fascinating about the film is evil is shifted and it continues to shift. And what I love what you're saying there about the monsters are the ones that seem to know what things to say. You know,
Scary. That's
and
scary.
it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And oh my goodness, we could explore that for so much longer. I know we're running out of time, but just with that in mind, Avan, one of the things I love about this film is there's another line that really hit me is the idea that it's not enough to be nice. You have to be active. You have to actively fight against what's not nice. I was wondering what you think that means, and is that possible? Because, like you said, this is a film that, I mean, evil is everywhere. It's very, very heavy, this world that they live in. So, is it possible to kick at the darkness?
I think so. I mean, I think that's the hope, right? The hope is that you identify what you think is not nice and you advocate for its removal from our society. I mean, the thing is this is the social experiment that we're all a part of. There are social contracts that are outdated that need to be renegotiated, and there's social contracts that need to be created for the first time. And I think that, yeah, as far as like how can you push away or kick away the darkness is, for me personally, it's through making um, films that make people ask questions and making art that hopefully makes people ask questions. there's a there's a lot of like, and then the spectrum of doing that go all the way from Mouse, which is quite vigilante,
Mm.
all the way to like my cowardly position where I'm just trying to make art and hopefully it matters and it affects people. I'll just recognize, for me, it's just trying to make stuff that hopefully somebody can watch and resonate with, and it changes their perspective and it changes the way they interact with the world around them. And micro steps, micro steps, micro steps. And we need. And the thing is, the truth is, we need everyone. We need mouse. We need mouses, mouses. I've never said their name in plural actually. We need characters like Mouse. Who are willing to do what others are not. But we also need everyone else, and all the different stages of advocacy. If you can, it's sort of a buzzword that I don't really enjoy that much. But because everyone's an advocate. Like, people call me an advocate. I'm like, no. There's people who are like really in the streets doing real advocacy work. I'm somebody who, you liked my politics. It's not the same thing as being an advocate. But yeah, so yeah, to your point in a larger roundabout way, I think we push back the darkness in whatever way we can. We all have different abilities and we're all suited differently to do that. But so long as we collectively agree and identify on evil, then hopefully we can do that.
I love that and I appreciate that. And actually, it reminds me too that technically Mouse, she's kicking back two ways. I mean, she's doing so, with that hard-nosed detective, but she's contributing through art, as we see.
Yeah.
She's contributing through her storytelling, and it's very interesting.
She's making art. I mean, she's making a manifesto here.
Yeah, yeah. People want to know. People want to know.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so hopefully if we say it loud enough, it'll be heard, and then people can be like, hey, what's going on over here? And then slowly that shift happens.
Avan, I really appreciate your time, and I
Really
really,
appreciate your really very in-depth questions, man. And thank you for watching the film. Again, it's a trip to people see the film and see the messaging and have questions about it, I'm beside myself. So I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was great. Great. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Wish you the best.